The morning sun streamed through the towering glass windows of the Good Morning America studio, casting long shafts of light across the bustling set. Cameras glided silently over the polished floors, operators adjusting lenses, while makeup artists made last-minute touch-ups. The hum of anticipation was nearly tangible. This wasn't just another celebrity interview. Today, the atmosphere crackled with an energy that even the veteran crew could feel. There was a tension in the air, subtle, but undeniable. Something was about to happen, and everyone on set, audience members, producers, camera operators sensed it. Leonardo DiCaprio, one of Hollywood's most revered actors, walked onto the set with his trademark quiet confidence. A man who had won acclaim for his portrayals of intense, deeply human characters now faced a different kind of spotlight, the raw immediacy of live television. Across from him, Robin Roberts, the seasoned journalist known for her unwavering poise and incisive questioning, sat in her chair, a stack of notes neatly arranged in front of her. The camera zoomed in on her face, every line, every slight smile conveying professionalism. Yet beneath it lurked the sharp edge of a journalist, ready to press, probe, and provoke. The opening moments of the interview were deceptively calm. The camera panned across the audience, capturing polite applause, whispered comments, and the occasional flash of a smartphone as eager viewers recorded the scene. Leonardo nodded, smiled, and responded with the charm and measured eloquence that had earned him global admiration. But as the conversation shifted from generic pleasantries to pressing issues, his environmental activism, his stance on climate change, and recent criticisms leveled at his advocacy, the calm veneer began to crack. Subtle signs emerged: a tightened jaw, a flicker of frustration in his eyes, and a hand brushing nervously against his leg. Robin Roberts leaned forward slightly, her voice steady but insistent. "Leo, some critics argue that despite your environmental efforts, your carbon footprint remains significant. How do you reconcile that?" The question, delivered with the precision of someone who had asked it hundreds of times before, hit a nerve. Leonardo paused, the air around him thick with hesitation. He had rehearsed answers, talking points ready for interviews that were expected to be friendly, perhaps even flattering. But love, under the glare of the cameras and the scrutiny of millions watching from home, something about the delivery sparked a visceral reaction. The tension escalated subtly at first. Leonardo shifted in his seat, the leather squeaking beneath him. His hands gestured small at first, then broader, more insistent. Roberts remained unflinching, maintaining her calm demeanor even as the actor's normally measured voice began to edge higher, a tone just shy of what might be considered frustration. The camera captured every micro-expression, the tightening around his eyes, the slight flare of his nostrils, the brief moments when his gaze flicked away from the interviewer and toward the floor, as if searching for composure. Behind the scenes, the production crew exchanged glances. Producers, hidden just out of frame, leaned toward monitors, noting the change in energy. "This is different," one whispered, eyes wide. "He's usually so composed." The audience, meanwhile, began to pick up on the subtle cues, murmuring among themselves, some leaning forward in their seats, sensing the slow build of an impending storm. Social media, even before the segment officially aired, started buzzing with speculation and anticipation. Clips of Leonardo arriving on set were already circulating, with captions questioning what he might say, how he might respond. Then came the first real spark of friction. Roberts, maintaining her characteristic professionalism, probed a personal angle. "You've been publicly vocal about celebrity responsibility in addressing climate change, yet there have been reports about your private travel choices. How do you respond to those who say there's a disconnect between your advocacy and your lifestyle?" The words landed like a small explosion. For the first time in the interview, Leonardo's trademark composure faltered. His eyes widened slightly, and the corners of his mouth twitched a silent, almost imperceptible sign that the tension had reached a new level. The narrator cuts in. In this moment, viewers could see the collision between expectation and reality, between public perception and personal integrity. Leonardo DiCaprio, known for his calm, deliberate responses, faced a question that threatened to expose a rare vulnerability. Cinematic music swelled softly in the background, emphasizing the rising stakes. Quick cuts showed the audience's reactions. Raised eyebrows, subtle gasps, whispered comments. The camera lingered on Roberts, her expression neutral, eyes locked on her subject, unflinching, yet carrying the weight of inevitability. The interview was now a high-wire act. Outside the studio, fans and media analysts speculated. Tweets began, appearing, some supportive of DiCaprio, others criticizing what they expected to be defensive or evasive responses. The internet, a living organism in real time, mirrored the tension on set, amplifying it to a global audience. The stage was set for something unusual, moment that would break the mold of celebrity interviews and enter the public consciousness, not for its content alone, but for the emotional intensity it displayed. Within the studio, every detail added to the drama. A slight tremor in Leonardo's hand as he reached for a glass of water. The way he paused mid-sentence, as if weighing each word for its potential impact. Robert's subtle yet unwavering gaze, a reminder that this was live television, that every reaction was broadcast to millions. The sound of cameras clicking, crew members adjusting angles, and the faint hum of studio lights created a layered auditory backdrop that heightened the sense of immediacy. And then, just as viewers thought the tension might simmer down, a subtle shift occurred. Leonardo's voice, previously calm and measured, sharpened slightly. A sigh, almost imperceptible, escaped him. His gaze met Robert's directly for the first time with a spark of intensity. The narrator highlights this beat. It is in the moments between words, the pauses, the glances, that the story truly unfolds. The calm before the storm is never silent. It whispers, it pulses, it hints at the eruption to come. By the end of this chapter, the audience is left teetering on the edge of anticipation. The studio, though outwardly composed, vibrates with unseen tension. Every viewer watching from home, every social media user following minute-by-minute updates, feels the weight of the moment. Something is about to happen that no one could have fully predicted. Leonardo DiCaprio, a man defined by his poise, is standing at the threshold of an emotional breaking point, and Robin Roberts, steadfast in her journalistic precision, is the catalyst. The hum of the Good Morning America studio had settled into a tense rhythm. Cameras rotated smoothly, capturing every nuance of Leonardo DiCaprio and Robin Roberts as the interview entered its critical phase. After the initial pleasantries, the subtle cracks in DiCaprio's composure began to widen, imperceptibly at first, like tiny fissures in a calm lake just before a storm. The audience could feel it, even if they couldn't yet pinpoint why. Sharp intake of breath, a flicker of impatience in the actor's eyes, a fleeting gesture of frustration. Roberts leaned forward, resting her hands on the desk, her voice steady but incisive. Leo, while your advocacy for climate change is widely praised, there have been questions about the impact of your private jet travel. Some say it undermines your message. How do you reconcile that? The question was measured, professional, even polite, but loaded with implication. DiCaprio hesitated, blinking slowly, the pause lasting longer than usual. His hand moved to his chin, subtly brushing a trace of sweat as though to mask the growing unease. The camera cut to audience members, some leaning forward, others exchanging quick whispers. The tension was palpable, cinematic in its subtlety. DiCaprio's response began calm, almost rehearsed. I understand the criticism, and I take my personal responsibility seriously. My team and I are constantly looking for ways to offset carbon emissions and make more sustainable choices. But as the words left his lips, a slight edge in Robert's follow-up question struck like a spark on dry tinder. Yet reports show significant private travel this year. How do you address critics who call this hypocrisy? The actor's posture shifted. A slight forward lean, then back. A subtle frown creased his brow. His voice, usually calm and melodic, carried a hint of strain. I think it's easy to look at numbers without understanding context, he said, his hands clenching briefly before opening again. The audience felt the tension rise, though the verbal exchange remained civil. Behind the cameras, producers whispered nervously, "He's usually measured. This is different." Cutaways showed clips of social media feeds already buzzing. Tweets streamed in. DiCaprio under fire on GMA? Finally, someone asks the hard questions. Some expressed skepticism, others empathy. The narrator explained, "In a world where celebrity and activism collide, every word is scrutinized." In this live interview, a single question could become a viral narrative, reshaping public perception in real time. Roberts maintained a calm, deliberate pace, each sentence crafted to elicit reflection, not just reaction. Your foundation has funded countless climate initiatives, yet some argue that celebrity advocacy must align perfectly with personal choices. How do you respond to that? The phrasing was subtle, yet piercing. Leonardo's eyes narrowed fractionally, lips pressed together in concentration. The tension thickened, not from anger yet, but from the strain of accountability. The weight of expectation pressing down in a live broadcast setting. As the conversation unfolded, the camera caught micro-reactions. Leonardo's fingers drummed lightly against the desk, his gaze shifting momentarily to the floor before returning to Roberts. The subtle, almost imperceptible shifts tightened jaw, a short pause between breaths, an intake of air spoke volumes. To those attuned to human emotion, the audience's attention sharpened, sensing the storm brewing just beneath the surface. The narrator highlighted the psychological nuance. Even the most composed individuals can experience pressure that is almost invisible to the naked eye. For Leonardo DiCaprio, a man used to scripts, takes, and controlled environments, the spontaneity of live questioning introduced an element of unpredictability. Dramatic music swelled softly as slow-motion footage captured his subtle gestures. Brief sigh, a hand brushing against his temple, the shifting weight of his chair. Each movement told a story, amplifying the anticipation in the audience's minds. Robert's questions, though fair and professional, carried layers of implication. In your films, you've portrayed characters grappling with moral dilemmas, with the weight of decisions that impact the world around them. In real life, do you ever feel that same pressure when facing public scrutiny? Leonardo hesitated, the pause stretching uncomfortably. The audience sensed that this was more than an interview. It was an examination of character, a collision of public expectation with private conscience. Off-screen, the production team exchanged anxious glances. The floor manager adjusted his headset, subtly signaling camera operators to focus on both the actor and the interviewer simultaneously, ensuring every micro-expression was captured. The narrative intensified as the interviewer shifted slightly, leaning in with a question designed to test the balance between diplomacy and honesty. Some critics say that being in the public eye requires transparency beyond activism, personal choices, endorsements, lifestyle. Do you agree with that assessment? The camera lingered on DiCaprio's eyes, reflecting a flicker of intensity that few had seen in public. His composure was intact, but strained, measured, yet vulnerable. His voice carried both reason and emotion. I believe in responsibility, but I also believe that criticism should account for nuance and context. Not every headline tells the full story. At this point, the tension in the studio had reached a nearly cinematic pitch. The audience was silent, hanging on each word, aware that something was coming. Social media feeds erupted with speculation. Memes began circulating highlighting Leonardo's subtle reactions, and news outlets started to tease the exchange as potentially explosive. The narrator added, "In a few moments, the conversation would cross an invisible line." What started as probing, professional questioning was about to evolve into a confrontation that would be talked about for weeks. As the chapter neared its conclusion, Leonardo's gestures became more pronounced, leaning forward, hands clasped and unclasped, subtle shifts in posture signaling rising emotion. Roberts remained unwavering, poised yet firm, embodying the journalistic ethos of probing without provocation. The camera captured the contrast a man of immense talent and composure, facing questions designed to challenge, and a journalist whose calm precision only intensified the drama. The atmosphere in the Good Morning America studio had reached a palpable intensity. Every camera angle, every subtle gesture, every pause carried weight. Leonardo DiCaprio, usually the embodiment of composure and charm, sat across from Robin Roberts with an intensity that few viewers had ever witnessed. The interview, calm at first, had become a high-stakes psychological game. Now the tension was no longer subtle, it was electric. Roberts, seated with her signature poise, leaned in slightly, her eyes steady and unyielding. She delivered the next question carefully, but deliberately, the words chosen to press beyond superficial answers. "Mr. DiCaprio, there are reports that despite your advocacy for environmental causes, your recent travels and lifestyle choices contradict your public statements. Some see this as a form of performative activism. How do you respond to that?" The camera zoomed in on DiCaprio's eyes, and in that moment, millions of viewers at home caught the flicker of frustration. A crack in the actor's carefully maintained calm. His jaw tightened. A brief sigh escaped him. The audience, sensing a pivot, leaned forward in anticipation. The music swelled subtly, a soft undercurrent of tension that punctuated every word and gesture. I think that's a very narrow way of looking at things," DiCaprio began, his voice slightly higher than usual, laced with emotion. "I've spent decades trying to raise awareness, to fund initiatives, to advocate for systemic change. It's easy for critics to cherry-pick moments, to reduce years of work to headlines and tweets." His hands moved more emphatically now, slicing through the air as if to underline his frustration. The camera caught every motion, the brief flinch as he pressed his palms together, the shifting in his chair, the way his gaze darted momentarily away, only to return with renewed intensity. Robin Roberts remained calm, unfazed by the rising emotion. "Mr. DiCaprio, I understand your point, but some say that advocacy demands not just words, but consistent alignment with personal actions. When you travel privately, when public appearances seem performative, it raises questions about credibility. How do you reconcile that?" The words landed like a spark on dry tinder. DiCaprio's restraint broke in a way that surprised even seasoned producers. "I am trying, every single day, to make a difference. You think it's easy to balance personal responsibility with the scale of the crisis we're facing? You think it's easy to make systemic change in a world that resists it?" His voice rose, unplanned, urgent. The camera zoomed in slowly. On his face, capturing the rare vulnerability, the raw passion, the frustration that comes from feeling misunderstood on a global platform. The studio went momentarily silent. Robert's calm expression contrasted sharply with DiCaprio's intensity, heightening the drama. The audience could sense the shift the interview had crossed from polite inquiry into confrontation, and the emotional stakes were now as high as they could be on live television. Off camera, production staff exchanged anxious glances, the sound of whispered communications barely audible over the mounting tension. "Leo," Roberts said softly but firmly, maintaining her professionalism. "I'm not here to undermine your work. I'm here to ask the difficult questions that people are asking. Your advocacy has inspired millions, but public figures are scrutinized for their actions, not just their intentions." DiCaprio leaned forward, almost on the edge of his seat, voice charged with urgency. "I understand accountability. I live it every day. But it's exhausting to constantly defend intentions instead of focusing on results. Do you think any meaningful change comes from perfection, or from action, from compromise, or from stagnation?" His words struck a chord with the audience, some nodding in agreement, others holding their breath. Social media exploded in real time, viewers dissecting his tone, gestures, and inflections, posting clips with captions like, "Leo finally snapped passion over performative criticism." The camera captured a slow-motion pan across the audience, faces frozen in anticipation as the dialogue reached its emotional apex. Roberts, unflinching, responded with measured precision. "I hear you, Leonardo. But people watching care about consistency. They want to know if your actions truly match your advocacy. The public scrutinizes because your voice carries weight." DiCaprio's hands moved more dramatically now, almost pleading. "Do you know what it feels like to carry that weight? To fight against entrenched systems while being judged every moment for every choice? I'm human. I'm not perfect. But I care more than most people will ever understand." His words reverberated through the studio, a rare glimpse into the emotional toll of celebrity activism. The dramatic music swelled in tandem, a cinematic underscore for a moment, already destined to be dissected in headlines and social media for weeks. The tension peaked as the camera alternated between close-ups of DiCaprio's intense expression, Robert's calm and measured response, and the audience, some shocked, some empathetic, all captivated. The narrator punctuated the moment. In this instant, Leonardo DiCaprio revealed not just frustration, but the human cost of celebrity. Advocacy. The collision of public expectation and personal responsibility became painfully visible for everyone watching. The studio lights seemed to pulse with the intensity, capturing sweat on the actor's forehead, the slight tremor in his hands, the shift of weight as he emphasized his points. Roberts, composed as ever, leaned in one final time, her question, almost rhetorical. "Do you believe that passion alone can change the world, or must it always be coupled with accountability?" DiCaprio's response was measured, but still carried the fire of the exchange. "Both are required. You cannot inspire change without action, but action must be intentional. And sometimes that means facing criticism, even when it's uncomfortable." He paused, chest rising and falling, and exhaled, almost as if signaling a release of the pent-up tension that had been building for the entire segment. The chapter concludes with a cinematic cliffhanger. The narrator's voice rises. What viewers had just witnessed was more than a celebrity losing his temper. It was a collision of ideals, accountability, and human emotion played out on the brightest of stages. Yet, this confrontation was only the beginning. The fallout, the global conversation, and the personal reckoning were still to come. The camera pans slowly over the silent, shocked audience as the screen fades to black, leaving viewers suspended, eager to uncover the consequences of this explosive moment. By the time the interview wrapped, a Good Morning America studio had returned to its usual home. Yet the aftershocks of the exchange between Leonardo DiCaprio and Robin Roberts continued to ripple through every corner of media and social discourse. Outside the controlled environment of the studio, the world had erupted. Within minutes, clips of the confrontation were circulating across social media platforms. News outlets were posting real-time analyses, and millions of viewers were debating, dissecting and dissecting again every word, gesture, and facial expression. On Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, the commentary was relentless. Some defended DiCaprio, praising the raw honesty and human vulnerability he displayed under intense scrutiny. Comments flooded in. Finally, someone holds their ground under pressure. And this is what being human looks like: passion, frustration, honesty. Others criticized him for losing composure, questioning whether a celebrity of his stature could maintain credibility while visibly agitated on live television. Headlines splashed across digital news platforms. DiCaprio meltdown on GMA. Passion. Or poor PR. And Robin Roberts holds her ground as Leonardo explodes live. Media analysts were quick to dissect the exchange. News segments cut together the most dramatic moments, juxtaposing DiCaprio's intensity with Roberts' calm professionalism. Experts weighed in on the significance of celebrity accountability in an age where every micro-expression can go viral. Within seconds. This is more than just an interview, one commentator said. It's a case study in how modern media amplifies human emotion. A single moment on live television now has the potential to dominate global conversations within minutes. Even late-night talk shows and entertainment programs picked up the clip, replaying it with slow-motion highlights and commentary. Memes and GIFs proliferated, emphasizing Leonardo's hand gestures, his intense eye contact, and the subtle, human moments of vulnerability that made him relatable. Across platforms, the debate centered on a key question: can celebrities truly advocate for causes without being held accountable for their personal choices? Behind the scenes at GMA, producers and staff were fielding calls, responding to inquiries, and preparing for the inevitable fallout. One producer recounted, "We knew it was tense, but the way Leonardo expressed his frustration, it was beyond anything we expected." Social media exploded within minutes, and our control room was buzzing nonstop. The footage of the exchange became a teaching moment in public relations and media management circles, cited in discussions about crisis control and narrative. Framing. Meanwhile, DiCaprio's publicist and management team sprang into action. Statements were drafted emphasizing the actor's ongoing dedication to environmental causes, highlighting measurable initiatives and philanthropic work. At the same time, analysts speculated on the cultural significance of seeing a major Hollywood figure visibly human, angry, passionate, and flawed on live television. The narrator interjects, "The moment revealed a rare human side to an international superstar," a reminder that behind the polished images and award-winning performances lies someone susceptible to pressure, scrutiny, and frustration. The online discourse was intense, split between admiration and critique. Twitter users debated whether DiCaprio's reaction was justified, while Instagram and TikTok users recreated scenes, added commentary, and even humor to soften the tension. Hashtags such as #DiCaprioMeltdown, #GMA Confrontation, and #Robin vs. Leo trended worldwide. Social media algorithms amplified the clip further, ensuring it would dominate conversations for days, if not weeks. Cultural commentators highlighted the broader implications. The incident became more than a celebrity clash. It was a reflection of society's increasing expectation for public figures to embody both moral authority and emotional restraint. Experts noted, in today's media landscape, celebrities are scrutinized not just for what they say, but for how they react under pressure. Leonardo's moment was compelling because it was real, unscripted, and human. Television programs analyzed the exchange, showing side-by-side clips of Robert's calm questioning and DiCaprio's passionate responses. Slow-motion edits highlighted his gestures, subtle tremors, and the fleeting expressions of vulnerability that resonated with viewers. Audiences watching from home experienced a mixture of shock, empathy, and fascination, caught between witnessing celebrity perfection and unfiltered humanity. As the day progressed, online opinion pieces, think pieces, and blog posts dissected every nuance. One article noted, The clash between a Hollywood icon and a seasoned journalist illustrates the collision between celebrity, accountability, and human emotion. Leonardo's passion was both his vulnerability and his power. Memes continued to spread, but so did thoughtful discussions about the challenges of activism under public scrutiny. The moment became a cultural touchpoint, sparking debates about celebrity responsibility, media ethics, and the human cost of fame. By nightfall, the incident had become more than a clip on television. It had entered the global consciousness. The narrator sets the tone for reflection. In a few short minutes, a live interview became a worldwide conversation. A celebrity's loss of composure was transformed into a moment of cultural significance, prompting questions about accountability, humanity, and the pressures of life in the public eye. As the dust settled on the whirlwind of media coverage, viral clips, and social media debates, the public's attention slowly began to shift from sensationalism to reflection. Leonardo DiCaprio, the actor whose every move was often dissected, under the glare of Hollywood and global scrutiny, had inadvertently revealed a side rarely seen, a raw human side. The explosion on Good Morning America was no longer just a moment of anger or frustration. It had become a mirror reflecting the tension between celebrity, responsibility, and human vulnerability. In the days following the interview, DiCaprio maintained a lower profile. His public appearances were measured, thoughtful, and carefully curated. Analysts noted the difference. While the GMA confrontation had been intense, his subsequent interviews displayed reflection and composure, showing lessons learned from the high-stakes live moment. Clips circulated, showing him engaging with environmental initiatives, quietly visiting projects, and speaking candidly about challenges in implementing sustainable solutions. Each action, juxtaposed with the earlier outburst, illustrated the duality of public life: passion paired with accountability, frustration tempered with reflection. Experts in media and celebrity culture highlighted the broader implications. What made this moment resonate, one commentator explained, was that it exposed the pressures that come with fame. Leonardo is not just an actor or activist, he is a human being under constant scrutiny. That vulnerability is rare and powerful. Psychologists echoed this sentiment, noting that public figures often endure extreme emotional labor, the necessity to project perfection, handle criticism, and respond to millions of eyes watching at all times. DiCaprio's visible frustration on live television humanized him in a way carefully scripted appearances rarely do. For the public, the incident sparked debates that went beyond the superficial. Social media users, initially quick to judge or praise, began to contextualize the exchange, considering the pressures and moral complexities that accompany celebrity activism. Editorials explored the delicate balance between intention and action, passion and composure, and the challenge of being accountable while still pursuing meaningful change. Many viewers expressed empathy, remarking that the moment made them appreciate the weight of responsibility carried by those in positions of influence. Robin Roberts' role in the exchange was also widely discussed. Analysts praised her professionalism, noting how her composed and persistent questioning drew out DiCaprio's emotional honesty without provoking unnecessary hostility. Her demeanor highlighted the journalist's art to probe deeply while allowing the subject's space to express themselves, a balance that created an emotionally charged yet insightful conversation. The contrast between her steady poise and DiCaprio's intensity became a defining feature of the interview, illustrating how high-stakes media interactions can both challenge and illuminate human character. Behind the scenes, reflections continued. GMA producers and staff shared their perspective on the incident, emphasizing the unpredictability of live television.